I'm going to give you guys a second. Go back to the practice of finding a piece of paper and a pen. And in a couple of seconds, when you're ready, sit in a position that's comfortable. Please get rid of distraction. If you're playing music, turn it off. If you have someone in the room, tell them to stay silent. If you are talking to someone, begin to be centered within your own space. Make sure your posture is straight, and also make sure you're comfortable in a position where you can write on a hard surface. I usually suggest using a pen so that you don't have the ability to erase what you wrote down, because when you're writing things and you see the answer, the goal is to see what you wrote down the first time. No erasing. All information here that comes to your mind intuitively is vital right now. You ready? So, usually our practice starts with a probing dot and target coordinates. These target coordinates are a distraction. These target coordinates are randomly generated. It does not matter what the number is for the day. The target coordinates are usually so that your mind doesn't think of something specific. So, the target coordinates that you're going to write down on the piece of paper right now is, you ready? 8, 6, 4, 2, 9, 9, 7, 3. And put a probing dot so that whenever you get distracted and you don't know what you're thinking, first thing that comes to your mind when you probe on this dot, you'll write it down. Write this on your paper. Okay, so the goal here is to focus on senses. I want you to close your eyes and begin to recognize what the first thoughts are that come to your mind. The first thought that comes to your mind is a color. Write it down. The first thought that comes to your mind is something you touch. Write it down. The first thought that comes to your mind is a sound. Write it down. Anything that comes to your mind, write it down immediately without analyzing it. Analyzing your thoughts will create a story. We just want one word. If you can create a list of words that come to your mind intuitively within a couple of seconds, write them down. If you spell it wrong, don't worry. It's not that serious. So just write down quickly whatever comes to your mind immediately. Before you write down things, while you're probing, visualize darkness, nothing, void. Visualize a black screen. Whatever image comes forth within 1 second after your void is there, describe that image in one word and write it down. I will not tell you the target until the end. So target 1, begin. What's the first thing that came to your mind? What's the first sound you hear? What is the first color you see? What is the first thing you can touch? What is the first emotion you feel? I'm saying this very quickly because I want you to write quickly. Do not analyze this. As fast as I speak, write down a word. What is the first thing you see? What is the first thought you're thinking about? If you feel like you can only think of one thing over and over, your mind is intuitively telling you to write it down. Try to make your words very basic. This is called low-level data. If your low-level data is related to something that can be generalized, then it's correct. When it's generalized, that means low level. If it's high-level data, that is highly specific. We don't want highly specific things. Okay? Just generalize what you're seeing. What is the shape? What is the texture? What does it smell? What is the color? Is it bright, dark, dim, or glowing? Is it hard, soft, semi-hard, semi-soft, wet, or mushy? Is it hot or cold, or moderate temperature? What are you standing on in this location? Is there something to stand on, or is there nothing at all? Is there a base surface or no base surface? What is the first thing that you see? Can you identify any subjects in this environment? Can you identify any water in this environment? Can you identify any mountains in this environment? Can you identify any subjects in this environment? Can I identify any energetics in this environment? Do not question my questions. Usually, you should just get an immediate intuitive yes or no answer. If you sense yes, write down the word that you're sensing. If you sense subjects, write down the word subject. If you don't, just move on. If you're sensing something else very specific, generalize it. If you're having a hard time, go ahead and probe for your own emotions. Use this probing dot as a tool, as a distraction. Close your eyes and tilt your head back at a 45-degree angle, upward. Close your eyes for 2 seconds, and a flashed sketch image should come to your mind. What is the first thing that you can sketch on this piece of paper? Go. You do not have to use words. Just sketch something. Sketch it very quickly. If you take too long to sketch, you'll create a story there too. The images that's coming to your mind that you have a hard time describing in words, sketch it as quickly as possible. And if you have a second to get another piece of paper, let's get that. We'll move on to the next target after this target is revealed. I'll give you guys a couple of more seconds.
The explosion?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I believe the target is on the screen, correct? Yes? Yes. So the target at the moment on the screen is a generalization of what your target was in 86429973. The descriptions that you should have written were sounds, loud sounds, sounds that you possibly related to something else. If you heard a sound and you wrote it down as something that was very specific, then those were probably deductions. And those deductions are not wrong answers, they're just related to the target somehow. The target was an explosion. So if you had something related to an explosion sound as your descriptions, then you were somewhere near the target. And you were on target in a correct way. If you saw colors, the colors you should have seen were black, gray, red, yellow, or brown. If you heard something, the sound should have been very loud. The word description should be loud. Energetics would have been a correct description as well. Explosive energetics would have been a very, very perfect description for this target. If you sensed you were on land or a base surface, you were correct. The target is on a base surface. There are no subjects in this target. It was just an explosion. So if you did sense subjects, don't be discouraged. That was not the primary focus of the target. There's subjects nearby, but it's just not the primary focus. So I want you to focus next time, whenever you're using this tool, your probing dot, to focus on the first immediate thing in the center of the target. The center of the target is the goal. Can I get a wet rag? Wet rag?
Yeah, you can erase that. The target's gone now.
Okay.
You can do your next target.
Got a wet rag? And also, when I'm revealing the target on the screen, it's so that you can understand what you sketched. For those that sketch something instead of just writing down description words, don't be discouraged if your sketch doesn't look perfect. We're not asking you to do anything perfect. The best thing to do is to be able to understand what you wrote down first. If you can understand what you drew, and you can describe it to someone else, then that's usually the goal. So I want you to disregard this piece of paper completely. Do not write on it again. You'll be distracted by it for the next target. Throw this piece of paper away. Get a new one. And we're going to try again. It's going to be a completely different target this time. So, the practice of doing this, the practice of remote viewing is so that you can understand how to get back some sort of skill that you had before you came to this planet. Remote viewing is something that you need to be trained to do. You need to train yourself how to keep these skills. These are skills that your mind is capable of doing at any given time of the day. You can only do this if you train yourself to do it habitually, over and over. Caring about your intuitive thoughts is something that you can do naturally through spirit. So if you take the time out to study your brain and remembering the things that you can do during remote viewing, you can utilize these skills on an everyday basis. So we're going to try this one more time. You're here to learn, so don't be discouraged if you get something incorrect. And I'm going to write down the numbers on the screen and write them down as well as a probe dot. Your target coordinates are 6, 0, 0, 6, 4, 9, 3, 0. What's the first thing that came to your mind? Are you on a base surface or a non-base surface? What can you hear? Is it loud, quiet, or soft? What can you touch? Is it hard, soft, semi-hard, semi-soft, wet, or mushy? Is it natural, man-made, artificial, movement, or energetics? I'm saying these quickly because I want you to resonate with one of those words and write those down immediately. Is what you're touching static or dynamic? Is it still or moving? Is what you're touching simple or complex? What is the color of what you're touching? What is the color of the environment? Is the environment you're in a warm temperature, hot temperature, moderate temperature, or cold temperature? Can you sense any energetics? Can you sense any subjects? Are there any mountains nearby? Is there any movement nearby? Is there any water nearby? Are there any structures nearby? I want you to sketch something if you have a hard time answering these questions. The best thing to do is to write down the first things that come to your mind intuitively. But if you have a hard time describing in words, take the time to tilt your head back at a 45-degree angle upward. Like this. Close your eyes for 2 seconds and sketch immediately what you saw. Take 2 seconds. Do not prolong it. Only 2 seconds to keep your eyes closed. The quicker you can close your eyes and get an image that flashes to you, the better. I'm not giving you a movie scene to sketch. So just sketch the first thing that came to your mind. Now, for the people that are sketching, probe something on your paper for 2 seconds. Probe anywhere, sporadically, in a random generation, doesn't matter. Probe and ask yourself, what's the first description that comes to my mind? Write it down. Probe another location on your sketch and describe it immediately and write it down. And then probe another location on your sketch and describe it immediately and write it down. A beautiful thing to do is also to sketch all of your senses. Sound, touch, taste, hear, feel. Anything that you can use as a sense. If you were standing in the center of the target, write those descriptions down as well. The faster you can go, the less your mind has the time to distract you. Your mind is a tool. It does not control you. So if you have the time to say, I don't know, you also had the time to write something. Utilize your brain as a tool by writing something down immediately. I'll say some more description words so that you can have an understanding of how fast you should write. If you see or sense or are resonating with any of these words, write it down or sketch it. Hot, cold, moderate, base surface, level topography, irregular topography, non-base surface, non-surface structure, blue, yellow, white, gray, orange, black, windy, sharp, spiked, peaked, hard, rough, smells, loud, quiet, soft, smooth, hard, semi-hard, semi-soft, wet, mushy. Natural, man-made, artificial, movement, energetics, structure, subject. Big, small, round, square, long, wide, hollow, empty. Bright, dark, dim, glowing. These words are not for you to analyze. As you probe, I want you to sense what word resonated with you the most. If you're sensing more words than what I described, please write those down. My words that I have given you are possibly related to the target. You just have to sense what your feelings are telling you is related to the target and write those down immediately. And if you have the time, sketch what you're sensing. Remember to tilt your head up, close your eyes, and sketch the first image that came to your mind. Okay, the target is going to be revealed now. Are you ready? Here's the target. The target is a waterfall. So if you've written down anything related to water, a natural environment, the color blue, the color white, or the color brown on a base surface, irregular topography, hard, rough, cold temperatures, you've gotten the target correct. If you sketched lots of energetics and sporadic movement, that is correct as well. But the dominant target element is water. When you're doing a session, you need to have dominant target elements. Those are the elements that need to be confirmed so that we can understand that you're actually in the target location. The main priority here is water. So if you were sensing wet as your description instead of water, then the best thing to do would be to describe your wet. Is it cold? Or is it hard? Something that's wet can be related to something other than water. So when you're sensing a word, and you don't know what it is specifically, let's write down more descriptions on top of those descriptions next time. For example, if I wrote the word wet, I can actually probe this word. Something that's wet can be like an ice cube, or it could be concrete that just got rained on. Those are two different things. And I never said it's water though. Ice isn't water and hard, wet concrete isn't water, but it's both wet. Water in itself is a specific element. As a universal element we all understand. Water and wet do not relate to the same thing at all times. So if you were one of those people that got the description wet, next time I want you to probe this word even more and probe the temperature and then probe the texture. That would help you understand what your wet description is. Water can also be described even more when you're probing as well. So if you're sensing that there's water, it has to have a temperature. When you're sensing water as well, next time, let's even dive deeper into our senses. Taste the water. How does it taste? Is it clean or dirty? Is it salty or fresh? You can write those descriptions down. It helps you too. You can also tell me what the color of that water is. And you can also tell me, besides the temperature and how it tastes, you can tell me if the water is slimy, or if the water is smooth, or if the water is mushy. Those are all descriptions that help, okay? This probing of the words you've written down relates to all words. All word descriptions have more descriptions that you want to search for. So probe for every word that you write down. If you wrote down a color, like the color blue or the color white, probe for a description of why you're writing that down. These words are coming to your mind intuitively. But the best thing to do is to probe deeper into understanding why you're writing those down. Your target won't ever be just one word. So dive deeper into the words you're writing down. We're going to do this again. Always give multiple description words for what you're writing. You might not understand it, but it's not for you to analyze. Your intuition is just coming to you and flowing through you onto a piece of paper. Just write. That's all you have to do. And think about what you're feeling and sensing. Okay. Your next target coordinates with a new sheet of paper. Is 3, 4, 4, 7, 8, 2, 2, 9. Probe. Are you on a base surface or not on a base surface? What is the first thing you sense in this target? Think about all of the senses you have. Hearing. What can you hear? What type of volume is it in this target? What type of sounds do you hear? Natural sounds or man-made sounds? Is it loud, quiet, or noticeably quiet? See, what do you see in this target? Can you see something specific? Or can you see something very small? Is what you're seeing able to be sketched? And if so, grab a piece of paper so that you can begin flash sketching what you're sensing. Remember, if you're going to sketch what you're seeing, tilt your head back at a 45-degree angle upward. Close your eyes for only 2 seconds and sketch the first thing that came to your mind. And when you do sketch, describe the things that you're sketching. Describe as much as possible in a very generic way. What can you smell? Do you smell something natural or something man-made? Or do you not smell anything at all? What can you taste? In this environment, is there something that you can grab and taste? If so, try it. If you don't sense that's possible, then move on. Now that you've grabbed something, what else can you grab? Tell me the texture. How does it feel? How heavy is it? Is it something you can move easily, or is it something that's very light? Is it an object, or is it something that's really big, like a structure? Do not take too long to analyze what you're thinking about. Just write it down. Now what are you standing on? Are you standing on a base surface or a non-base surface? Actually feel where your feet are in this target. What's underneath your feet? Is it hard, soft, semi-hard, semi-soft, wet, or mushy? Is what you're standing on natural, man-made, artificial movement, or some sort of energetics? What is the color? I want you to stand there, still, and look to your left. What's the first thing that's set to your left? What's the first thing that you see when you look to your right in this environment? Turn around in this environment, and what is the first thing that you see when you turn around? What's right in front of you again? In the center of the target, there's something that should be perceivable. What's the first thing that you can sense is perceivable in this target? Are there any other elements in this target that you're sensing? Some elements could be subjects, structures, water, mountains, movement, or energetics. Whatever you're sensing, probe it and tell me how much of that is there. Are you capable of sketching anything you're sensing in this environment? If so, try to sketch it. For those that have a hard time sketching things in a specific way, here's how to sketch basic target elements. These are called ideograms. For the people that are sensing something that they need to sketch as subjects, sketch a curving upward, around, and downward line. Looks like this. That is a subject. If you're sensing a structure like a building or a location, it's vertical downward, horizontal across. If you're sensing water or something wet, draw a wavy line. If you're sensing energetics, it's like a snowflake. No form of energetics is the same. If you're sensing movement, you can draw diagonal lines that are diagonal upward, diagonal down, or horizontal across. For any form of base surfaces, if you're sensing a base surface that you're standing on, you can draw a horizontal line. Again, that represents land. If you're sensing a mountain or any sort of steep peaked areas like mountains, you can draw vertical upward, steep peak, vertical downward. That represents a mountain. Remember to continue thinking about what's the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't analyze what you think I might give you as a target, or what you want me to give you as a target. The goal is to use this probing tool, your dot, as a way to not distract yourself. And if you have a complete hard time writing down description words, first sketch something. Okay, let's reveal our target. So our target is a conference. This target is inside of a structure. So if you got anything related to being on a base surface, on land, you are correct. If you have subjects in your target, you are also correct. There's multiple subjects in this target. These subjects have a focused gathering. They're inside of a structure. So if you drew subjects inside of a structure, you were also correct. If you also drew groups of subjects together, that was perfectly fine too. The colors that you see in this target are brown, white, black, and there's multiple different subjects of male and females. So if you got anything related to that, good job. The sounds in this location is relatively loud. There's a lot of people talking. So if you got loud sounds or talking sounds or chatter or conversation, good job. Okay, we're going to move on to a different target. I want you to grab your piece of paper, a brand new piece of paper. And we're going to write down new target coordinates. And I want you to try one more time. This time, I'm going to give you guys a target. That's something very simple. You don't need an image for it. Okay. Your target coordinates are 0, 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, 8, 7. Remember all of your senses. Probe for the first thing that came to your mind. I want you to take the time out to really dive deep into your mind. What are the emotions you feel? Do not prolong your emotions. Just write down the first emotion you're sensing and the target. What is the first thoughts that came to your mind? How would you feel if you were in the center of this target? What is the activity in this environment? Activity is things that are probably happening. Be very generic about the activity that you're sensing. Generalize it in a way that's not too specific about something that might not be the target. What type of movement is going on in this environment? What session elements can you sense? Is there water, subjects, mountains, movement, energetics, structures? What's the first thing you see in this environment? Are you on a base surface or not on a base surface? Choose colors. What colors can you see? Grab something immediately and tell me, is it hard, soft, semi-hard, semi-soft, wet, or mushy? Is this location simple or complex? Is this environment bright, dark, dim, or glowing? How would you feel if you were in the center of this target? What would your emotions be? What would your thoughts be? What are your viewer feelings about this target? What's the first thing that you can grab? Can you describe it? Something that you can touch. Does this target remind you of something? And if so, what does it remind you of? Write it down. What can you sketch? If you have the capability, sketch something immediately after you tilt your head back at a 45-degree angle. Close your eyes and sketch something. Make sure to see a blank slate, just darkness, complete blackness before you sketch something. Do not distract your mind about what you think the target might be. Just see nothingness before you sketch something. The conscious mind has the capability of creating a story if you take too long to write things down. So try to speed up when you're doing this practice. Give me some descriptive words that would help me understand what you're sketching. Probe on different locations of your flash sketch and describe exactly what those locations are like. The color, the texture, exactly what they are, anything that you sketched. Just describe it on a piece of paper. This target is very complex. I'm going to reveal it to you. It's an amusement park, specifically Six Flags. But I wanted you to try to describe as many elements of an amusement park as possible. An amusement park is very, very complex and very dynamic. There's multiple subjects moving all around. The activity is chaotic. The activity is very positive, actually. And if your viewer feelings related to something that was not very positive, then you probably have a fear of heights for amusement parks and roller coasters. I'm sorry. So your viewer feelings could be very biased when it comes to this target, based on how you have a relationship with amusement parks. But your feelings are your own, and you wrote them down specifically in your own way. Amusement parks like Six Flags have multiple colors. So if you got any color, you're mainly correct. There's no specific color when it comes to that park. But there is heights. There's large structures. These structures are man-made. They are hard. And there's lots of structures that have water on it as well. So if you got anything that was wet, that was correct as well. These structures are on a base surface, and they are on land. That is correct as well. This target does not need a picture. We all know what an amusement park looks like. But just pay attention to what you wrote down. This is about understanding how your mind works. Your psyche is learning something that it naturally has the ability to do. It's relearning it and practicing it by doing these targets over and over and over again. Your intuition is something that you can trust as a gut feeling, but trusting it when you have a piece of paper and a pen is probably very foreign to you. Am I right? When you're describing things about that amusement park, what is the first thing you noticed you loved to pay attention to psychically? What is your subconscious mind continuing to draw you towards? When you wrote down descriptions of that amusement park, did you write down your feelings about it? And if you did, were they positive feelings and were they negative feelings? And can you relate those viewer feelings to that amusement park to a situation in life because of a past event or because of how you were subconsciously feeling? These questions will help you understand how to do other targets. Any other targets related to emotions. This probably will help you understand how to trigger that memory. I want you to continue to practice this target over and over in a different way. What is the first thing that came to your mind after you saw the target? Or are they different from your viewer feelings? Sometimes when we're remote viewing, we don't actually have to remote view just our personal viewing thoughts. We're probably remote viewing someone else's perception of reality as well. Some of these targets were simple, and some of these targets were a bit difficult. I understand. And next time when we do this challenge together, I'm going to give you something that you possibly can relate to. So, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you really want to try some more targets with me, I personally like to take in students and privately tutor them with my own time. You can just email me at info@trudybenjamin.com and I will help you and guide you personally as your mentor so that you can understand how to remote view way better. We're going to try to do this more often. I like live streaming. These challenges are cool. It's really fun. But I hope you enjoyed it. And next time, I will see you once more. Have a good day, you guys.